Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 25th edition of the Fantasia Festival. My name is Alyssia. Today, we are interviewing the co-director of one of our documentaries from the Docs from the Edge section. The documentary's name is Lost Boys, and we have Sadri Cetinkaya with us today. Hi, it's nice to meet you for the first time.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to not only show the film, but also obviously to talk to me today. I mean, Lost Boys is not an easy film to watch. I can only assume it was not an easy film to make. So I was looking forward to getting to chat with you about the film. So first things first, for our audience members who might not be familiar with your previous film, Reindeer Spotting, can you maybe tell us more about this film and how it connects to the new one also?
Yes, Reindeer Spotting was kind of a... These films are independent from each other, but they connect, as the main character, so to speak, is both present and unpresent in them. In the first one, Reindeer Spotting was following Jani and a few of his friends who were doing drugs in the northern parts of Finland. And then when he made a little bit of a score and had enough money to travel around, Jonas was present behind the camera, following him all the way to the edge of Europe and then back to Finland. And the film ended when Jani was ended up in the prison for the first time in his life. And Lost Boys begins when Jani had been just released from his latest prison sentence. He had spent most of the 10 years between these two movies inside jail for various criminal acts of violence and, petty crime mostly. So we have a switch of main character from the person of Jonas, who is behind the camera in the first one, and on the second one he's switched into the main character. But I have to say that the character of Jonas in the Lost Boys is very thoroughly scripted. It's kind of a fictional character through which we are telling the story. Well, the story is quite heavily scripted and edited and fictional. The events did not take place like that. Most of the footage you see, most of the scenes are from years after the actual events. You see only the party footage from the trip with the guys, and then there is this couple of interviews, the two prostitutes and the interview at the hostel and the interview of Jani's friend Antti, who is found, these are the only scenes that are from the actual year 2010 in which this film is supposedly taking place. But
okay,
all
so
the rest are,
so there were more trips than to Asia.
Oh yes. we did first one in 2012, then 2014, 2 trips in 2015. So
Is that because the first time Jonas went back, he wasn't necessarily planning on making a film?
Well, we were making a film. We packed him with this camera and equipment, and the idea was that he will see what he can scrape out of. He made 3 short trips then, and in the between he came back to Europe to attend festivals because we were touring with Reindeer Spotting at the same time. But yeah, we got those interviews and we had the material from their trip, but it didn't really carry a movie. So we were planning on making more trips, but then, you know, he got busted, so he had to spend some time in jail.
So the film is told mostly, obviously, from his perspective, but you two were working as co-directors, co-writers of the film. Would you say that what you were talking about earlier about the film being more scripted and edited, was that more of your contribution to the film?
Well, we were working as a kind of a tight triad, me and Jonas, and also Ben Labarha, who was also with us in the first film, although she joined us just for the last year. Making reindeer spotting took us more than 6 years, and Lost Boys took a decade. So
what happened?
Let's say we have been working most of this time as a team of 3 persons.
So what happened in those 10 years of making Lost Boys? There were a few trips back and forth from Asia to back to Finland. Were you like always working on the film, or was it more of a...
Of course not.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a editing studio, which is kind of a home editing studio for this kind of work, mostly working at night, and, you know, I have a day job, you know. Obviously, nobody's going to pay for 10 years of, you know, editing time.
No,
to
we
make
wish
a documentary. But yeah, no, mostly it's, you know, it's basically it's not actually much of a money maker, this kind of stuff.
I noticed that Jonas decided for the narration of the film not to narrate himself, right? So you guys were working with actually a pretty known actor from Finland. How did you guys end up working with Pekka Strand?
Well, the narration was in the process of the film. Actually, the writing of the narration was one of the last things that were finalized. We were for a few of the last years working when it became decided that we are actually using a narration. It was mostly done, edited with the narration done by me, just, you know, as an edit narration. And then we were thinking about Jonas doing it himself, but for various reasons, ended up with a professional actor, and we were very lucky to get Pekka, because people, well, yeah, obviously I can hear that it's not Jonas, but as far as I've heard, people have been surprised that it's not actually the guy behind the camera doing the narration.
So yeah, I was surprised.
It was a great success, yes. But this was, we were trying to make it very consciously, you know, as a kind of a laconic style without this kind of much of an emotional movement into the narration. So I think,
yeah, at times it sounds kind of ominous. You know, this is like narration just over your head as you navigate the film. It guides you.
Yes, well, it is the narration is happening inside the cell, where Jonas is going through the events of the past. Also, the film's ominousness, of course, it has this kind of a circular structure. In the end, in the beginning, you see the end. He ends up in the dead end, going around a small jail cell, just going through the events that got him there.
And all these events were quite I mean, you guys, the whole team, put yourselves in quite the vulnerable position or risky positions, you know, going to investigate kind of on your own, trying to find out what happened, talking to a lot of strangers in dark places. Were there, you seem to be a fairly fearless bunch. Were there any times where you guys second guessed your process and what you were doing?
Well, I mean, when you're going, there's no second guessing, but yeah, of course, there was some times where, but you have to remember this film has been edited to seem as scary as possible and to make it so that it seems like Jonas is going there alone, you know, in there, you know, in reality, we tried to make it as most of, that there's at least two of us, you know, because it's so much easier to hang one guy in an alley than two guys. You know? So basically, this was our security plan. In retrospect, it might not have been the best one, but you know, we made through it.
Well, it does seem pretty scary when you, as the audience, when you watch the film. I kind of felt nervous for him at so many occasions.
So I'm so happy to hear this.
I'm glad to know you were there the whole time too.
Well, not just me. I mean, and yeah, sure, we were, you know, by ourselves at some points, and there was also wasn't completely with every shooting trip. There was also Arttu Nieminen, who is one of the camera, who was traveling with Jonas when I wasn't available. Usually we switched mid-trip at some point with him. Venla was also with us in one trip, so we got to know Bangkok and Phnom Penh.
I was going to ask you. I am half Cambodian. I've been to Phnom Penh, and although that obviously is not the subject of the film, but were you also trying to get across some point of view on drug and sex tourism in Southeast Asia? Do you feel like it was, you know, that it's the environment itself might have been an enabler for what eventually happened to Yanni?
Well, I mean, everything is an enabler. Obviously, yes, a drug addict goes to an environment where heroin is cheap, and you know, there's lots of very good actors playing the girlfriend and the drug dealer. So, of course, it was enabling, and also the money that he was getting from the previous film was also an enabler, of course. I don't think he would have been able to stay there if he was broke. But then again, when he was there before Jonas had to leave back to Finland, they hadn't planned on them staying there. They refused to go, the guys, because, you know, going back to their day-to-day lives back in Finland didn't really seem like a good option if they could just stay a little bit more in the paradise. You know. But it comes to when it comes to the sex tourists' view is really the view, drug addicts and sex tourists' view. We are really not bringing like an unbiased view, definitely. And well, you probably know about. I don't know how you're.
You see it everywhere. It's not like it's a hidden part of life in these cities.
Oh,
it's very visible, but at the same time, a lot of people who go just as a tourist, as a regular tourist, if I may say it like that, you know, turn away and don't really want to look at it, or you know, it's very, it's kind of taboo, I guess, but it's not hidden. So it was interesting in the film to, you know, to hear the girls talk about their experiences too, that are very real for a lot of women over there. And for some of them it's just a job, and for some of them it's more than that, right?
Well, my exposition to this world is mostly through these few examples, so I have to say I am not an expert on the issue. I have been plunging into the perspective of what we are having in this film, and this is not exactly a film about drugs or film about prostitutes or film about sex tourism. This is a film about people who are these things, but they are not, it's not a film about the phenomenon as a whole.
Did you ever feel like it was challenging as a documentarian to decide that, okay, I'm gonna, in this film, I'm gonna show my friends, you know, in a highly intoxicated state, doing things that could potentially endanger them? How did you feel, you know, as a friend, but then as a filmmaker and a documentary maker, making these decisions? There's these creative decisions.
How did I feel?
Yeah, was it challenging? I can only assume, because these are people you know and care about.
Well, in some way, there is also this thing that I didn't actually know Yanni that well. I only met him a few times. The people who were, and also I don't see the intoxication as a somehow an issue that should apply any kind of moralizing. Personally, I don't think an intoxication, of course, you can see the legal aspect that can bring problems. But then again, the material is so old, it's 10 years old. So, yeah, mostly when we asked about the issues, mostly I was worried about the issues in Cambodia, because drug use is an offense that gets old in a few years. So it wasn't really in Finland, I mean. But it didn't seem to be a problem when asked in Cambodia either. I don't think there was basically I got the idea that the police need some special reason to give a shit about it. We did not approach the Cambodian officials in any form while making this movie. I understand it was a same thing in Thailand. We got kind of advice from people who had been doing official television stuff that we just gonna end up needing a huge bribe allowance if we are doing anything official there. So basically we went with tourist equipment we could gather from our own resources. And yeah, turns out it looks pretty good in the big screen also.
It does, and I noticed that between Reindeer Spotting and Lost Boys, the latter seemed a lot more polished and cinematic. So it's interesting to know that you still just were using mostly tourist cameras. And
yeah, it was all consumer stuff, except the cell footage, the moving cell footage. Most of it was shot in an Arri. We had Arsène Sarkisian's for one day with a real camera. So we went around for one day. The only actual shooting day we got from our production company. The rest of them stuff was done by our own equipment on our own money. They only paid our plane tickets and cheap hotel rooms.
Well, I'm impressed. It looks really, really good.
Well, you have to remember, since Reindeer Spotting was shot in the beginning of the century on a mini DV camera, even the smallest resolution is almost double from what we are using in Lost Boys.
That's true.
That's just HD stuff, you know.
Yeah, I remember using those in school too. It looks very different. Yeah. Great. Do you when looking back today on both films, is there anything you think you should have done differently, or you would have done more or less? How do you feel now about both films?
Many things. I think they are watchable. Not especially Lost Boys could have used a year more on work.
And by the end of it, it's still unclear whether Yanni's death was suicide or not. I think officially in the media, that's how it was declared. Yeah. What does your gut say? Do you believe it personally?
Yeah, the longer I was making this film, the more I was certain of the fact that there are no answers to be found here. My gut says something fishy was going on, but it could have been either way. I have not received an answer through the Ouija board for this. The thing is fishy. It's definitely suspicious, but yeah, it's definitely suspicious. I would say that, and definitely the official story was, well, I don't think they would have actually investigated a guy with empty pockets found there hanging. Apparently they burned the body very fast.
And a foreigner too.
Yeah, the Finnish police just went there to pick up the ashes, basically. Or did they even manage to pick up the ashes? They just, you know, had a trip there, talked to the local officials. Oh, we burned the body. Too bad. I bet it was suicide. So it's not like, it's basically the same, you know, if to the officials in Finland and in there, it's basically the same if somebody has killed a dog in the street or the dog has died of natural causes. They're not really interested. They are mostly doing disposal.
I really hope that Yanni's friends and close ones still manage to, you know, find peace with what happened, and also with these films that you guys made. To, in the end, it does honor his life and existence.
Well, definitely we were going for that for Yanni.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me about this film. I know it's a tough subject. I was wondering if you, as a filmmaker, do you have any things coming up? Are you working on new projects now?
Well, kind of. Well,
yeah, stay mysterious about it.
No, it's mostly, you know, stuff I hope I will manage to finish during my lifetime. You never know.
Well, I hope you do. Thank you again so much for talking to me. For everyone watching, Lost Boys will be available on Fantasia's streaming platform for the entirety of the festival. So until August 25th, you can watch it on there. Please spread the word if you like it. And thank you again, Sadri, for your time today.
Thank you. And thank you for for your audience also for watching the film. And yeah, I'm sure it will be around on the internet pirate site also. If somebody sees this and feels like they have missed the thing and don't make it to the festival.
Excellent. So we don't talk about that until after the festival.
No, well, you know, it's your festival.
Thank you.
Don't
Goodbye.
mind. Ciao.